up, Mafia? So I don't know how to say this, but Vic Fangio may not be locked in. There's been enough reporting from multiple news outlets to say that this isn't just noise. Fangio has seriously thought about calling it quits and retiring. And that's a realization that I don't think a lot of Eagles fans are ready for. Because while we were in that terrible season and that offense struggled, Vic Fangio and his defense was the highlight of the entire season. And when a defensive coordinator of his skill even considers walking away, the organization can't just make assumptions. But we can. Now, I may be completely wrong in my way of thinking and my rationale, but I honestly think that this has to do with the Eagles interviewing Mike McDaniel for the offensive coordinator position. It's no secret that they did not see eye to eye during their time in Miami, which resulted in Fangio being fired a year after starting his role in Miami. Maybe he saw it as disrespected that he wasn't consulted about this choice. Or maybe it's just that he believes that it is his time. He's been in this league for years, been with multiple organizations, and he finally won himself a Super Bowl. Maybe there's nothing more that he wants to accomplish. And maybe he just wants to walk away from the game. But once again, this is all just speculation. And there were rumors that he was going to retire after the Super Bowl, but they coaxed him to come back to coach for one more year. Now fast forward to this offseason, and he still was on the fence about coming back to coach. Which leads to the biggest problem that I see here. Christian Parker is gone. Parker would have been the next in line for the defensive coordinator position. He wasn't just another guy on the staff. He was tied directly to Fangio's system. The technique, the communication, the continuity. And he's followed Fangio to multiple teams, learning his thought process and his schemes. So the Eagles knew that Vic Fangio wasn't sure about returning, and that he had 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Why would you let his replacement go to a division rival? It makes no sense to have the successor and then to let him walk. I think that there should have been a meeting between Fangio and Parker to discuss the future to see if Fangio actually saw himself with the team. That decision ultimately opened up the door to a lot of bad possibilities. I spoke on this previously in another video, so if you're interested in that, that's going to be in the description. Fangio leaving now would feel like a slap in the face. And that's no part of his own, that's going to be on the Eagles organization. Because he wasn't a sure thing. And no one wants to go back to that tragic 2023 defense. Because when Fangio took over, the defense settled and they played elite. So if that voice does disappear from the locker room, his replacement cannot be an experiment. It has to be somebody proven, and somebody who's ready to take the reins of this high-flying defense. So here are some names who could possibly replace Vic Fangio, and where they are right now. Let's start with Clint Hurt, a familiar name. Hurt is currently still on the Eagles staff. He's worked with defensive lines for years. He also understands how Fangio wants pressure to work without exposing the secondary. And honestly, this would be the cleanest transition. Now the concern is full play calling experience. He has been an assistant coach for both the Bears and the Seahawks, but those roles never really panned out. But if you want to go with something that's familiar, then that's your choice. The next obvious choice would be Jim Schwartz. He's run defenses in Philadelphia before, and players know exactly what his style looks like. It's all about aggressive fronts and playing physically. The only downside I see here is that the scheme would shift, which to me really isn't a big deal because the defense is so young, and will be able to pick up those tendencies. Next is another name that people really aren't talking about, and that would be Wink Martindale, another coach who currently does not have a role within the NFL. He's known for physicality and for having pressure-heavy defenses. He likes to make the quarterback feel his presence immediately, and I feel like we have the pieces to make that happen. Now this one will be the biggest stylistic change. Corners will be asked to press and hold up more, instead of flowing to the ball just like in Fangio's defense. And then there's Joe Casper. Joe Casper was just elevated from their safeties coach to be the defensive back coach. Now with him, he's another name that they're familiar with. He knows the players, he knows the schemes, and he knows tendencies. The downside to this is it'll be his first coordinator role. And like I said before, I believe that it needs to be someone who's experienced. And the final name that I will go after will be Sean McDermott. McDermott will be the biggest name on the list. Sean McDermott doesn't currently have a role in the NFL. The reason why he fits is because he has a defensive background. He's a highly regarded defensive mind, and he's a protege of Jim Johnson. With him, you get that leadership presence, and you get instant authority when he walks into the room. But this one will be kind of like a swing to the fences type of move, because I'm sure he could be in line for a head coaching job. Now, none of this confirms that Fangio is gone. As of right now, these are just rumors, tabloids, and speculation. But, in my opinion, the Eagles should be looking ahead. Don't just assume that Vic Fangio is a sure thing. You need to prepare for all possible outcomes. So tell me this, who do you think will be best for the Birds defense if Fangio decides to leave? How do you feel about the Eagles letting Christian Parker walk, even though they knew that Fangio wasn't sure about returning? Did I leave anyone who should have been included on this list? Drop it in the comments and let me know. But honestly, I hope that Vic Fangio stays, because the defense looks elite when he's there. But if he does decide to walk away from this game, his replacement cannot be a reach, and it cannot be a gamble. If the change does happen, the Eagles need someone who's capable of running that room and carrying the massive weight of that job. And here's to hoping that the correct decision is made. So signing off, this is Brother Shy, and this has been the Midnight Green Mafia.